the 7-stage business development process. I'm Richard Cuff, president of CTI Marketing, founder of Nasimba Business Alliance, and certified master greatness coach here at GetReadyForGreatness.com. And stage number 5, I have said is I've taken multiple clients through this process. It's stage 5, I think, is the most interesting. And so let me do a recap of what we've gone through so far in the previous 4 stages. Remember, stage number 1, visualization. Stage number 2, consultation. Stage number 3, planning. And then stage number 4, implementation. Remember, by the implementation stage, that client now has been converted from a fee client or a free client to a fee-paying client. Even if it's a small dollar amount that they are paying, if you're not getting paid, you have no reason to continue to work with that client. It's okay to say no and send them on their way. Okay? Now, often, and I've mentioned to you before, that things usually go wrong immediately in the implementation stage. But here is what happens. You get through the implementation stage and you get to stage number 5, and that's control. And I often say this, I just call it the control phase so that I can tell you that control is a myth. It's something you think you have until the moment you lose it. Ask anybody who wrapped their car around a tree what happened, and they will tell you that they lost control. Ask them, did you have control just before you wrapped your car around that tree? And they go, yeah. And see, that's the problem with control. Now, John Rockefeller has been quoted often, and he says you want to own nothing but control everything. That's a real good strategy when it comes to limiting your liability, being able to make quick moves without having to, get a lot of people to sign off on those moves. But when you have control or believe you have control, it's easy to be caught off guard. Remember systems failure? We talked about that in the very first video. You need a system and then you need the support to be able to fix that system if something should go wrong. So when you get to the stage number 5, the control phase, you probably are now working with the client. You have developed a relationship. You may be months or even years into servicing that client, and then something happens. Usually that something that happens was an unforeseen circumstance. And therefore, in losing control in that unforeseen circumstance, you are often sit back to the drawing board. So here's a better way, even though we call stage number 5 control, it's better to think of the control phase as preparation. How are you prepared for something that can happen? And now I don't bring this up. Remember, we're making the list, so we have not necessarily gone through this. You're literally walking this person through this list sort of in the virtual world, and you want to be able to go and look at what could virtually happen in stage number 5. Well, oftentimes, reason why we get caught off guard is we don't want to think about the negatives. But there is a possibility that the building that you are moving into could catch fire and burn to the ground. So what do? You want to have insurance. There is a possibility that there could be a slip and fall, or there's a possibility that the market could collapse. There is a possibility. All of those are possibilities, but all you want to do in the control phase is say, what do we do in the event of? Now, I remember reading years ago the story of a company called City Laundry. I think they were in Ohio. The company burned to the ground, everything. And within 48 hours, they had agents on the road knocking on doors with clients' checks in hand for their loss. And within 6 months, the company had the trucks back on the road. And by the time the company had completely finished building they were operating at a 20% profit. After being burned to the ground, what happened? Well, how were they able to get back so fast? Well, the company had a strategy that for every time they would implement something, they would implement a plan, a strategic plan for what to do if this system failed, if this product, if this piece of equipment failed. And so because they had everything spelled out for each piece of equipment, it was easy for them to pull out the paperwork for all of them. And that's how they were able to get it back going. They had a contingency plan for everything. But why did they increase their sales by 20%? Because what happened was when all of the good stuff burned to the ground, all of the inefficiencies burned to the ground as well. So when the company went back to the planning stage to rebuild the company, they didn't say, oh, you remember that piece of equipment that we put in and we had to put it over here on that side in that small room because we didn't have a room big enough? Let's make certain that we put it back over there. No, they didn't do that. They took advantage of the opportunity to put it back the way it was supposed to be. So that's what happens in the control phase. In the control phase, you begin to get information that you may not have been able to get in a visualization through implementation stage. Now you're in this control stage, and so you're constantly making adjustments. Final image that I want to give you is that, when a plane flies, 99% of the time it's off course. The pilot is constantly correcting the course. He's moving to the left, he's moving to the right, he's going up or down, he's slowing down or he's speeding up. But the one thing that is certain, that client, that airline, that pilot has to get it perfect when it comes time to land and when it comes time to take off. That's exactly, so everything else in between you can adjust, but you've got to stick that landing and you got to make certain that it gets off the ground perfectly. So in that control phase, you're not so much trying to control the 99% in the middle. You're just being prepared for what you have to do to get it off the ground and prepared for what you have to do to bring it into that landing. And that's how you're going to continue to work with the client as you go through this phase. And now you're preparing to move into stage number 6, which we'll talk about in the next video. Guys, remember to log on to the PS Factor for the PS Factor 21 Days to Greatness ebook. Log on to thegreatnessshop.com and